All right, welcome to another Backyard Freemason discussion briefly. This is out of the transactions for the Idaho Lodge of Research for September 1997. It's a really nifty little article. I'm just going to take bits and pieces of it for you because I don't think I can read the whole thing in 10 minutes, but I'll give you the essentials. It's by Sean O'Neill, The Foundations of the Universe. He's talking about the letter G being in both English and American Masonic lodges. He's discussing how it's used in the second fellowcraft degree and so on and so forth, the Royal Arch and all that. And this is on pages 8, 9, and 10 that I'll take my gleanings from. As what Masonic author Joseph Fort Newton called a practical mysticism, Freemasonry has always been exemplified by symbols that link its labors to the ideas of infinity and eternity. I like that. That's very important. When you get studying the mathematics of infinity, it's a fascinating situation. G is generally thought to simultaneously represent the fifth science, geometry, and of course the grand architect of the universe himself. Yes, God. Geometry and God. It doesn't have to be a one-to-one correspondence. It can mean many things. I've also argued in one of my research papers on my blog, The Masonic Scholar, that G can stand for Gnosticism as well, the Greek word for knowing or knowledge. So anyway, thus we may view the letter as a symbol of the connection between earth and heaven, between the finite and the infinite. I really like how he puts that. Geometry literally means earth measuring, but to the ancients, the earth did not mean our planet. Now this is really interesting how he puts this. It meant the primordial substance from which we ourselves came and to which we will someday return. The geometry is synonymous with self-knowledge, the understanding of both our physical being and our immortal souls. I really like how he puts that. Then on page 9 he says, there is no such thing as unstructured matter. And I think this insight's really profound. Everything has an unbelievably complicated internal structure and on multiple levels. Molecular, atomic, even the subatomic. Geometry is a revelation of the line and the intersection of these structures and hence everything in existence. That's an interesting thought, isn't it? The signature of the architect. The precision in the foundations of the universe. Furthermore, this reality is our reality. Apparently, the G came to use in the 1700s, according to Albert Mackey. And 100 years later, the letter was somehow added to the center of the square and compasses, so that we see the current use of G with the square and compasses. To American Masons, the emblem is not complete without it, but this has not always been so in other countries. The essayist Joseph Newton and others further suggest that in all houses of initiation, a particular letter stands out as a divine initial. That's kind of interesting. And he cites the examples of the Egyptian Re and the Greek Eta, the Greek Eta being the fifth letter of that alphabet, and signifying to some the 5 brethren necessary to open a fellowcraft lodge. Kind of interesting. A more popular connection is that to the Hebrew letter Yod. Boy, there's a lot of good stuff on Yod. The first letter of the 4th symbol name of God, known as Yahweh, which we pronounce Jehovah. We should note that in many languages, the name of the deity is composed of 4 letters, 4 being considered the number of perfection. The Hebrew Yod, from which the entire Hebrew alphabet is derived, refers to the idea that the universe is created from that which is symbolized by the letter. The infinite nature of God is what the Yod symbolizes. It's noted today that the symbol appears in the 14th degree of the Scottish Rite in Freemasonry. Other sources cite the likelihood of a Greek connection by way of the letters tau, as in the triple tau of the Royal Arch, and delta, signifying the triangle and Masonic number 3. But perhaps the most compelling case can be made for the Greek gamma, said to have been venerated by Pythagoras. So Roland C. Blackmer writes that the original posture of the Mason's square was upright. And this is interesting how he ties this in. So we're thinking of the square. It's upright, with the short arm horizontal. the modern method of suspension by the right angle probably being an imitation of the 47th problem of Euclid. Certainly it is easy to see the correspondence between the gamma, or a Mason square, and the figure 4 when it's written with an open top. The right angle at once suggests a four-sided figure, perhaps leading to the notion of square for each. Masons will further recall upon what a lodge is closed, a candidate received, and a fellow craft tried. The central idea is that it is the square, and not the G, that signifies the deity. Perhaps in earlier times, the master actually hung his square, the symbol of authority, conveniently near his own chair. But in time, this origin was forgotten, and the English initial is all that we have remaining. The numerologist Paul Foster Case, in disagreeing with Mackey's dismissal of the G as a symbol, uses attention to the Hebrew letter Gimel, and as a symbol uses gematria to discard the Yod and instead draw attention to the Hebrew letter Gimel, which begins the Hebrew word for the Greek noun gematria. Case then makes the point that G is the initial of geometry in the Hebrew of the Torah. So there's not all disagreement, in other words, with the Masonic scholars. The Greek of Euclid, Pythagoras, and the New Testament, and the English of the Masonic revival of the 1700s. The belief in the existence of God as the grand architect is one of the original landmarks of Freemasonry. Its presence in the East conveys two ideas for us. God observes our actions and thoughts. And this is the theme of the all-seeing eye also. He sees all evil and all good going on. That's why the all-seeing eye is considered interchangeable with this letter G. It's very interesting, isn't it? And secondly, that we, in turn, observe the existence of God and can orient our actions accordingly. You see how it ties the finite, or the finite with the infinite. Yeah. It's a way of bringing the divine into our lodges and our lives, the transformation of the Creator into a form comprehensible to us human beings. And as Newton writes, it is symbolic of God becoming man so that man might become God. A truth which lies at the center of all religions, perhaps most especially that of Christianity. The sublime value of the G, therefore, is not contained in its history or in its linguistic origin, but rather the value of the symbol G is in reminding us of the omnipotence or the omnipresence of the divine, and summarizing our attempts to commune with the one who underlies the all, the foundation of the mysteries of existence. That's kind of a fun little look at the letter G, isn't it? That's the fun of all these wonderful little research articles out of the journals of the Idaho Journal of Research, the Lodge of Research. So there's yet another idea for you to ponder. I'll be back with more, I promise.